This is the current ArriveCan app saga continuation. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Canada Wide. Let's have a listen.
Our audit is relating specifically to ArriveCan. My understanding is that the study by other committees might be broader than just ArriveCan. In terms of I'm aware that the committees have requested information and that some of that is outstanding, but it's not for me to comment on the process for that.
Your office has a mandate that when you uncover some element of criminality, you are to refer that to the RCMP. Is that correct?
When we identify issues that could raise the potential of criminality, we do identify for the RCMP.
And did you uncover any issues with respect to criminality involving the ArriveCan?
So at this point, I think that would be a question that the Auditor General would be best positioned to answer on February 12th. I can tell you that, as you mentioned earlier, we became aware that the RCMP has been already informed of a matter by the Canada Border Services Agency. That obviously is a different scenario than the normal one for us, where we conduct an audit and decide at the end whether or not to bring the RCMP in. They're already aware of the allegations.
At the government operation committee level, we have seen unprecedented levels of misinformation being shared by government officials.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
Why aren't we bringing in information from another committee?
It's
This
not a
is
point
the
of order.
Public Accounts Committee. Can we deal with the Public Accounts mandate relevance?
That's hardly a point of order. Mr. Brock has the floor and is welcome to reference any information. In fact, the letter that Mr. McCauley, who's a member of this committee, sent to the OAG specifically references OAG or information from that committee. So I will allow Mr. Brock to continue with his
Well, my Liberal colleagues don't want to shed any sunlight with respect to these allegations. The Conservative Party certainly does. CBSA officials appeared at government operations, deliberately misled the committee. The biggest outstanding issue is who was responsible for and who chose GC Strategies, this two-person consulting company who performed no IT work, who received $11 million of taxpayer money towards the ArriveCan total expenditure, clearly receiving the taxpayer-funded lottery in the process for doing absolutely nothing. This is a hot potato. It's kryptonite to the government. It's kryptonite to government agencies. Were you able to determine, sir, with the documentation that you received, who was responsible, what department was responsible for choosing GC Strategies?
Again, the Auditor General will be best positioned to describe the findings of our audit on February 12th. The scope of the audit is about the ArriveCan app, though.
Yeah, thank you. Has the government or the CBSA informed you that two whistleblowers who came forth at committee last week or 2 weeks ago were actually suspended without pay, that being Cameron McDonald and Mr. Antonio Utano, who both worked for the CBSA. Were you informed by the government of that?
So I am aware of that. I cannot recall whether or not I first found out from the government or whether it was in watching the committee hearings. It was around the same time, but I am aware of that situation.
Thank you. Mr.
You
Chair.
got 30 seconds.
That's fine.
You're done?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Janish, you have just under 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Sir, thank you for being here. And I am very concerned about your ability to access information from public servants in conditions where those public servants have been subject to intimidation. With that in mind, I wanted to briefly move a motion, and the motion is that the committee report to the House its grave concern about apparent reprisals against witnesses following their testimony on the ArriveCan app. This is critically important for the integrity of
Point of order,
the kinds
Chair.
of investigations.
Is this a notice of
Parliaments
motion
can
or is
undertake.
it moving a motion?
May I respond to that?
Yes,
Sure.
you may.
I'm moving the motion. It's on the matter at hand. It's on the matter at hand, and I'm moving the motion. Yes, thank you. And I think the committee will hopefully be able to dispense with this quickly. To review the facts very quickly, Chair, we had testimony at the Government Operations Committee, explosive testimony from Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano about what happened in the context of the Arrive scam scandal. When that testimony occurred, it was surprising and shocking what they were able to reveal in response to questions that members asked. In particular, they identified that a number of other public servants either lied directly or were not honest and forthright with the committee. They responded frankly and directly to questions that were asked in that regard. After their November 7th testimony, later that month, they received letters saying that they were subject to investigation. And while that investigation is still ongoing, these public servants have been suspended without pay. It's an incredibly unusual step that public servants would be suspended without pay in the middle of an investigation into their conduct when no findings have even been reached, and that they would be informed of that investigation immediately after they provide frank testimony to a parliamentary committee. Now, this speaks to the ability of public servants to be able to provide honest answers to important questions that are asked without fear of intimidation. And it speaks to the right of parliamentarians to actually get the information we need to get to the bottom of the Arrive scam scandal. Of course, many parliamentarians, parliamentary committees, the public has been seized with this scandal. It's true. $54 million were spent on the Arrive Can app. It was spent through a two-person company with no IT expertise. Nobody wants to own up to giving this company this contract, a company that again does no IT work, subcontracted all the work, and got a big payout in the process. Nobody in the public service wants to own up to giving them that contract. And now when we have two public servants who come give frank testimony, they are subject to disciplinary measures immediately after that testimony, before an investigation has even taken place. And this is gravely concerning, and I believe it is designed to send a message to public servants that they should shut up and not reveal the truth to committees. And that is not a message we want sent. So I hope that this committee would consider supporting this motion to report to the House its grave concern about apparent reprisals against witnesses following their testimony on the Arrive Can app. If members are serious about getting to the truth, if members are serious about really finding out what happened here, then we need to have a situation where the Auditor General gets all the documents that they require, and where public servants are free to speak without threats and intimidation. And I would hope that members would support this motion to say that if we are going to get to the bottom of this, we need public servants to be free to speak without threats, without reprisals, without punishment for coming to committees and answering the direct questions of parliamentarians. Thank you, Chair.
Speaking order in place. Hands went up quickly. Mr. McCauley, you have the floor, please.
Thanks, Chair, and my apologies for not being sorry there in person. I'm fighting a nasty flu bug. Sorry.
Mr. McCauley, I want to interrupt. Just so you know, the motion has been sent to all of your accounts as well. If you did not hear, Mr. Generous, but I think we all did. But back to you, Mr. McCauley. Just want to give notification. The motion's been sent to everyone's account if folks have questions.
Thanks very much.
But over to you.
I am in support of this. I am quite concerned about the issue around the retribution against the whistleblowers. Having been on the OGO committee for over 8 years, where we've been pushing whistleblower protection with no action from this government, I am extremely concerned, especially about some of the details about this case specifically. Here we had the president of CBSA telling us that she did not provide documentation to the CRA or PHAC that led to the suspension of Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano. It was apparently a mere phone call to these departments. You would think they would have provided a whole document package, an investigation. No, it was a mere phone call. And then immediately these gentlemen were stripped of their security status, and therefore, despite being both of them on medical leave, being basically constructively dismissed, being put on suspension without pay, without any investigation into it. It is a very clear sign of a government exacting its revenge on whistleblowers. We've seen this before with the CRA, where they have famously gone after whistleblowers. The case came out about 2 years ago, where it's actually gone to court, where we had whistleblowers who had brought forward issues of sexual assault, sexual harassment, abuse.
Point of order,
CRA
Chair.
Fired.
Point of order.
people. This is an
Relevant to the
ongoing
motion.
issue with this government.
And I'm hoping that Mr. McCauley will save his voice. Sounds pretty nasty. But yes, relevance.
All right, Mr. McCauley. Okay,
To the motion.
Mr. McCauley, I'll turn things back
Yeah.
over to you. There was a call for relevance, but I know you'll get back on track.
I'm pretty sure the motion is about reporting to the House about the whistleblowers, and I'm talking about whistleblowers. So I'm perhaps.
Sorry,
I
just to
understand. I'm
clarify,
under the
Chair?
weather with the flu, but I don't
Chair?
understand the relevance issue.
Just 1 second. Is this a point of order, Ms. Kelly?
Yes,
Yes.
it is. Point of clarification, perhaps.
Again, if you have a point of order, say point of order. I'll
Point of
recognize
order,
you. So-
Chair.
Okay, perfect.
To clarify, the motion talks about witnesses. There's no mention of whistleblowers in this motion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cleed. You're coming off the speaking list as well. Mr. McCauley, back to you.
I think the Liberals are splitting hairs for a reason, and this clearly goes back to their disdain for anyone who would dare challenge their narrative, anyone who comes forward and points out the truth. And here we have two Liberal members trying
Another
to
point of
interrupt me
order,
while
Chair,
I am
on
trying
relevance to this
present.
motion?
Well,
Relevance to this
I think,
motion, Chair.
Mr. McCauley, I'll turn things back over to you. Mr. McCauley, I think, is responding to the points of order, and I'm sure is wrapping things up to get back onto his point.
Yes. As I was trying to say before, the Liberals continue to try to interrupt any disagreement with their point of view, or perhaps any investigation in their continual ineptness or corruption. I think this is a very important motion that Mr. Jennis has put forward. I think this is something the House needs to hear from. We have very clear, exploding evidence that continues to come forward about this issue. There are people who have been suspended without pay. People's lives have been destroyed by this government, and I hope that we will move forward with this motion and address this issue. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Jennis, for putting it forward.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Mr. Johns, you have the floor.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to say this, that Mr. Jennis just brought a very similar motion to Government Operations Committee, which was defeated. So it seems that he's moving along from committee to committee to try to move this motion to the House when he knows full well that this can be included in the final report. He can raise these concerns in the final report. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano, who wasn't not very long ago, was testifying before Government Operations Committee. And I'm sure it sounds like he was at more than one committee, because the Conservatives have this at 4 committees, this study going. And like I said, could be focusing on things like housing and other things that are a real crisis in this country. I'm not saying that we don't want to get to the bottom of this. We have to get to the bottom of this. But the outsourcing issue that ArriveCan has is reflected in many different contracts, I'm sure. Started under the Conservatives, where outsourcing doubled under the big 6 consulting companies. It's gone up 400% under the Liberals, and it's out of control, but it started with cuts to the public service by the Conservatives. This was actually cemented by Michael Wernick, who testified at Government Operations Committee, saying that when the Conservatives gutted, senior public officials in 2012, that this caused huge problems when it comes to leadership, and now it's costing us in outsourcing to outside consultants to fill the void. The other thing is, we heard when the Conservatives were on the witch hunt around McKinsey, is that we couldn't get some